All right, what's going on, guys? Happy Monday. It is week 4 of February 2026. We're going into the last week of February. Um, yeah, it's a Monday, so we're hopping on kind of our weekly video slash update. Sorry, I thought I heard something. And yeah, I just wanted to update you guys on the current season, the current goals, and the current, pillars that I operate through, and how that's been affecting my life. Like I said, update y'all, kind of go review over this last week, talk about this present moment, kind of what's going on right here, right now, and then as well as plan, prepare, and strategize for the future. So let's get right into it. For those of you guys who don't know, and I'm also trying to do this as I believe I mentioned in the previous video, but if not, give a little general intro. So what I do is I make videos about my life, um, specifically in the context of like certain seasons, um, in an attempt to help me reach my goals, and stay on top of them, right? So for example, right, if I set some sort of goal at the beginning and then I update y'all weekly, and then I in past I've set some sort of timeline goal. If I get to the end of it, or if I get halfway through, or if I get even 10% of the way through and we're not seeing progress, or ultimately like um, you know the ability to complete that goal in the time frame, then we're essentially losing. And what I've tended to notice is this allows me uh, a better chance of meeting my goal, because it's very hard to talk about your goals consistently, speak about your goals to an audience or to others, and then not really act on them. So that's why it's beneficial to me, and maybe even beneficial to you guys, because I also would say I probably have pretty generic goals, in terms of like, a human living on Earth, uh, in America, uh, as a young adult in this current climate and time, political climate, whatever you want to call it, in of a Gen Z, or of a Gen Zer, like it's so I feel like there's a lot of common ground that we can find, um, just in maybe not what we can find, but a little bit of commonality that you guys can find in me, just kind of talking about life, and hopefully it can help you guys. Definitely helps me to do these things, and yeah, well, I mean, I would really, ultimately it'd be the goal to help my future self, as well as anybody else watching these. So yeah, my goal is to help anyone who's watching this. So with that being said, as we've said before, two major goals is reaching 100K revenue through our business, by July. I think we're currently at about 8K after through February, so we're very behind, right? So I think to reach that goal in July, we said we needed about 16 a month, and we're 50% through like 1 month, so we're like 1/12 of the way to our goal. So like technically, right, we're not even on pace to hit it for the year. Now I will say most of my revenue will most likely come in November and December, and I did make the goal 6 months in order to complete it for a year, because Elon Musk has this thing where he really does think like setting goals at a shorter time frame actually gets them done quicker. And then again, also, I don't think it's like going to be this linear, perfect progression of like, okay, if you want to make, if you make 8 grand a month over 12 months, right? That's 104, or it's like not, that's like $96,000, which at that point I'm calling it 100K revenue. Fuck you guys. That's not even like rounding up that much, but dude, like no one's gonna shit on you for that, and you can just fucking, all money's fake anyway. You just pump the numbers in the books anyway, and you say, you added 6K more fucking 6K more revenue in tips or something that you balanced with the 6K expenses, and revenue's revenue, but it does sound cool. So, and it's just a general goal, right? Nothing's gonna fucking change if I hit $99,999, right? Versus if I make $101,000, like nothing changes except for $2, right? And then maybe some sort of like dopamine response of hitting that goal. But like I said, I'm not letting it affect me like that. Like the people who I just like, like I didn't get all A's, but I got an 89, but you got a 90. Well, you actually reached, your goal is somewhat like, the output is basically the same, but the standard that you measured it by makes the world's difference. You're telling me this plus this made the world's difference because this is where the cut is. And I get being competitive and winning. That sometimes is all it takes to reach your goal, is like a little sliver, and it is all or nothing. But see, I don't think this is an all or nothing goal. And that's kind of how I choose to look at it. So on top of that, the second goal we had is, adding a second revenue stream that would make the business non-seasonal, non-cyclical, basically from, this time period to October when firewood isn't exactly like profitable or in the green or have really high margins or high profit. And that the simple solution to that was lawn and landscape jobs, which has kind of been the thought process since when I started, like about 3 years ago. But I was turned away by my mentor for whatever reasons, and he kind of does that now anyway, so I'm also following that path. And that might have been the issue, is that we're going to be competing in the same market. However, now he lives in Austin and San Antonio, or that's the kind of area he covers and does business in, where I'm in Houston, to where that doesn't seem like it's going to be a issue or rivalry whatsoever, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get a text or call from him here soon. But anyway, yeah, so that's overall goal, right? In regards to this last week, or the last time I spoke to you guys, I believe I updated y'all on Saturday and Tuesday as well. And can't remember how much I told you guys, and I think I really heavily influenced, I remember what it was. So we went through the hangover episode, and then which was really just like a nice reset as a whole. But like you said, I'm also starting to see some systems potentially not be as consistent or followed or habitual as I'd like to. So yeah, it's been a little hectic as this time of the year is usually when I'm at my strictest. So we'll kind of see what that will look like down the road, right? Because you're always laboring for the future, right? What happens now is what you'll get paid for later, right? Delayed gratification, all that good stuff. But basically, we had our first 2 red weeks in like business and firewood, since we do operate on like reoccurring expenses now. I keep them very minimal, but just some software and marketing expenses that I'll accrue even if we don't have business, just because we're at that point. Website, some marketing, some just software that's infrastructure for the business. We'll see how long that really goes. We kind of reinvested more into that too, which again, we'll see how that goes. But then last week was a very green week, as in, that's the revenue that we saw is what we want to see to stay afloat. Obviously it doesn't make up for the last 2 weeks, not being in the green for those 2. So, ideally this week would need to be a very, very successful week, but it did kind of flash some hope. Like, hey, it's not like the business just turned off, right? It's over, right? No, we experienced that in week 1. We kind of made that assumption week 2. We kicked it back into place for week 3, and we had a very green, very profitable, very good week, as well as, we reached that goal. And again, I can't remember after I made that video or not. First, how recently I posted it, and if I posted it after we fulfilled the job. I don't think we did. So we fulfilled that job. I think we found really good profit in the margins of fulfilling that job, and now we just need to scale, and we need to do more. So what does that look like? Marketing and sales, as so are all my constraints in business. And I believe, until you're generating at least, I don't even know, maybe $100K a year in revenue, your constraint probably is either your offer or sales. So it's really cleaning that up and then just testing, posting, closing, or just resetting, blah blah blah. Anyway, you get the point. So we have both of those things going on. So we'll keep running, firewood systems in the background, fortifying, our health systems, diet, exercise, recovery, our relationships as well. We'll be fortifying those, which does come at a cost to the business. And that's when I do have to realize, like, hey, the business is not the most important thing. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to operate, when that is failing, but it is not the most important thing, okay? Because if I did make it that, there would be corruption in those other aspects or areas of life. So that's just kind of where we're at. So that's the last week. That's kind of the general month, year goals that we're working towards. Like I said, feel a little faulty in them, but with that being said too, also sorry, I'm getting a lot of text messages right now. We have a wedding this weekend, so again, relationships coming into play, something that's already been an obligation. We kind of already knew it was going to come in at the end of the month, as well as, we were not in business mode this month. I'll say that very much so. We enjoyed our weekends, but we were still acting like we were in the green and we were in a profitable month. However, we weren't staying busy during the weeks to where I felt like it was really worth it or anything. So again, family group chat and siblings going crazy right now. I love them to death. But yeah, we kind of got to dial it back in. We got to really, February was made to, prepare for, March, April, May, or, Q2, seeing this drop in firewood, seeing an income that I pretty much had since October, and then getting this, I would say, I don't want to say elevated lifestyle, but the comfortability of not being in survival mode is something that I want to attain and reach back to. And unfortunately, right, it's a new problem that we haven't had. So how do we adjust a new problem as an entrepreneur, as an operator, as a problem solver? Is we need to create solutions, and we need to throw fuel on the flame to keep us warm. So we need to find that fuel. We need to find it quick. We really don't have time to focus on anything other than that. Like I said, we do have some obligations and relationships, such as the wedding and closer relationships that having godly relationships. This is a conversation I had with I guess my personal trainer, or my mentor today, referring to God. I kind of had to ask this question, like, hey, I feel like we're similar in God-fearing men. I have a question that I've kind of been struggling with. What comes first, health or relationships? Because God, everything comes from God, right? And I shouldn't have to worry about necessarily, what follows in that sense, because He's going to provide. But where do you think God wants me to put more value in relationships or in my health? Because in a sense, I feel like if I focus on my health, then I can be there for my relationships. But if I don't focus on my health, then I can't do my relationships. And he reinforced the God-fearing relationships, or the people of God, is where you need to prioritize your relationships in, and that will provide your health, right? So we've talked about the pillars before, and I think I usually go God, health, relationships, business, career, and then we go into kind of the sub goals of, or the sub, I guess they are goals, or foundations or pillars, sub foundations of goal setting or goals, finance, education, hobbies. I do think it's also interesting that I kind of put goals as a sub one when these are all kind of like goals in a sense. So that one's, it's kind of like some inception going on there, some goalception. But yeah, I mean, that's at least how my focus elevates, because it's like really goals falls under like all of those, you know what I mean? But at the same time, setting goals isn't more important than God, right? You know, or isn't more important than your relationships, right? At the bare bone, you need those things to have goals, in my opinion. But yeah, like I said, it's a flawed system. It's a flawed belief system. But you know, it's one that I've built out, you know, outside of, I wouldn't say outside of Christ, but you know, within Christ. And I think, you know, my ultimate goal would be like, to be like, hey, God, I've broken down this this kind of like, you know, thought framework, you know, for me, for others, that I say is like, hey, these are the 8 pillars that I believe you can follow. But they all, you know, they follow through you. However, like the Bible stops in, you know, BC or 80 time. How do we know how to operate in this life, right? Through you. And that's what I would hopefully appeal to him, or if this is what he wants done, you know, we'll see. I really hope I'm not dishonoring him in, you know, doing this. But like, this is how I would explain like modern day following God. Like, what are other things that he values, right? That he maybe didn't say specifically, or what are these things like contextually tied to, you know, following God in the 21st century. So a little bit of a tangent there, but basically, yeah, we got to the point across of saying like, yeah, God-fearing relationships are more important than health, and ultimately more important than business. So it doesn't, putting these other relationships that might not necessarily be like the God-fearing people, and he used a different term than this, but like basically like followers of Christ, is where the relationships that you should be focusing on, right? But it is hard, you know, because also these people, you know, maybe you're discipling them, maybe, you know, maybe they're on the same path, maybe you haven't really spoken to them about it, but you know, you can kind of tell in people's hearts, if you're truly following Christ, or if Christ is within you, you know, if they're just falling off the path, or if they've never really been on the path. And you know, that's not for me to decipher, me to decide, but you know, I would say there's some sort of agreement going on there. So yeah, with that being said, we do kind of want to turn a new leaf over here soon, and you know, that's hard to say when things are getting ramped up, but we kind of knew this month was going to be a little BSy, just because of the wedding, just because it was a short, quicker month. We didn't really know, was this going to be firewood, was this going to be lawn and landscape, but again, it is like kind of like a prep month. So the goal is right, to like be able to kind of eat this rocky path as we can. And there's some things that I'm not proud of, for example, overspending on, you know, just like gas station food, and just kind of like, I spent a good chunk of, you know, the money, I'd say, and I say good, but like just not most optimally with, you know, like food or groceries. And I don't know, it's a slippery slope to fall into, how the poor act, or how, I don't want to say poor, but how like the, you know, just they're called poor habits for a reason, right? I made a poor choice, you know. I was going to the gas station and I was buying sodas and cereal because it was a poor choice, right? Like, if I really needed cereal, right, could have bought, you know, the $5 box and the $3 gallon of milk for $8 instead of buying the $5, you know, cereal 10 times over 14 days. And that's just like an example. I don't think that's exactly what I did, but like, you see like the problem there, like that's a mistake that I made. And I think it just all comes down to, and it is difficult because, you know, I will say as I'm following God, there's other areas of my life that I feel like that I'm losing in, that even God would say, well, I was able to do this without him better than I am with him. And, you know, that's why you just got to trust in him, because you don't really know what's going on in the macro sense of like, well, the give here is the take care, and balance is a real big one. It is all a balancing act. So I think that's a big plan to work for and goal set for March, because as I said in this video, the goal was to go over review, talk about the past, present, and future. Talked about the past, talked about the present. It's time to talk about the future, and I think you should say this every month, but it's time to step it up, and also to kind of close another thought loop, talking about the revenue goals hit, right? Like, it may not go like 12 months across to hit 96K. If one of these months we hit like 50, because we just do something correctly, right? Something clicks. So that's my goal, right? Main business goals is going to be building out like the offer and the marketing, and then pushing that right to a point where we've had the skills of what a 10K month looks like. Can we maybe push to just see what a 25K month looks like? Like, is that a lot of change in systems, or is it just volume? Maybe it is just volume, which just means increasing our workload, increasing our employees or time on target or any of that. That just may be what needs to happen to get the job done. So I think that's kind of the two micro goals we're going to work on coming into the future is, fortifying our systems and then increasing volume on them. I think if I can kind of wrap my head around that, I think I'll even title this video that, like, that's how I'm going to reach my goals is, fortify systems, increase volume. That's kind of that's going to be the theme going into March. And, hopefully we can hit it hard. With that being said, hopefully I'm not bringing in too many new systems, too many new things going on. But, we'll just have to see how it goes and give it all to God. So appreciate you guys listening to the update. If you don't do this already, listen to these in 1.5 speed, because I know they take a long time, but that can be the difference between this being maybe a 25-minute video and a 15-minute video, and your time is valuable. So y'all take care, have a blessed week, and I'll update y'all when there's something to be updated about. If not, I'll check back in Monday. Deuces.